Hey everyone, welcome to the MotoAlliance podcast. I'm Peter Kapsner. I am here in studio with the general manager of MotoAlliance, Kevin Book, as well. Hey, Kevin.
Hey there.
And we are very excited to be talking with Bud Bruening. I have that right, don't I, Bud? I have your last name.
Yes, you do.
You know, it's one of those things where I realized during our sound check that I did not go with the pronunciation just to make sure that I had it right. But Bud Bruening from the UTV Utah community. And Bud, it's just been really fun to get to know you a little bit these last 6 weeks or so. And now really fun to do a podcast that focuses on the Utah riding community with you.
Yes, no, I appreciate you guys having me. My name is that E in the middle kind of throws people off, but it is silent, so it's pronounced Bruening, and I appreciate you guys having me. I'm excited. I've been kind of watching your guys' business and some of the products you guys come out with, and so for you guys to reach out to me and talk to me and have me on, I'm really excited to do it.
Yeah, you guys seem like you have a great thing going there in Utah. But before we get into it a bit, so Bruening, what's the origin of that? What's the background? Is it European? Is it Scandinavian? What do you have going there?
It is German. So yeah, it's
that's why you and I get
German.
along. Yeah. Right.
Yes, sir.
Indeed. So, Kevin, why don't you just take us into your exhaustive knowledge of the Utah riding community? Bud, we were laughing beforehand. We thought we're going to learn a lot from Bud, I bet, today. But I mean, Kevin, it's been fun to just even see some of the photos and everything that Bud's been doing there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Bud, we were joking because I've been with Peter. We've been friends now for a while, but I've been with Peter at Moto here for a number of months, 3.5, 4 months.
3.5, yeah.
Prior to that, I've been in healthcare for 15 years, so I do not own any equipment. I don't. So this is all very, very new to me. So yeah, we were just joking about, I was like, I'm going to be on the periphery, right? I just don't really have to participate. And I was like, oh no, you're going to be, so.
He's all in, Bud, yeah. So what was the first ATV? Did you own an ATV before the side-by-sides ever really came to market, Bud?
I absolutely did. So I grew up on ATVs. I grew up on a Honda 73-wheeler. And then from there, I all the way up to a 200X, a 250R. And then I got into Warriors and Banshees and then side-by-sides. Back in 2014, I bought my first side-by-side. It was a Polaris. They had just come out with a 900. And I bought that. I traded, actually at the time, I traded in six ATVs, two Polaris Sportsmen, and then I had a bunch of other machines. We traded them in on the first Razor, and then shortly afterward, I had two Razors. Within the first couple months, I had a 4-seater and a 2-seater, and then ever since, I've just been kind of hoarding them. My wife would say I have an addiction. Right now, I have 6 4-seaters, so I have a lot of machines.
Was it mind-blowing for you to go from handlebars to a steering wheel? Like, what was that first ride like when you got into that Razor?
So good question. So I have kids, and my youngest was a year or two old, and we used to do a ton of riding on our ATVs and a lot of hunting out here in Utah. He would always fall asleep, so I would end up having to hold on to him in front of me with one arm and then drive my ATV with the other arm. And within an hour or two, man, my arm was just exhausted. And so you know what? There's got to be a better way. So we actually checked into one and borrowed a side-by-side from a friend, and I threw him in the passenger seat and we went out riding. And I thought, you know what? He fell asleep and I'm still driving. I got my beverage in my hand and my son's asleep. And I'm like, you know what? This is a blast. We're riding the same trails, but just doing it a little bit differently. And ever since then, I've just been a huge fan.
And this is something that your wife, did you meet her and she was very much engaged in this community, or has she had to very much adjust to your passion here?
That's a great question. So I will start off with saying she has been very supportive. She has her own machine now, but she grew up in a family of all girls. And so off-roading was not something that they traditionally did. However, she has kind of dove in head first with me, and she has her own machine. She's got a brand new, Polaris Pro R with big portals and 39-inch tires, and she rock crawls with us like anybody else. So she's definitely jumped on board, but it did take her some convincing to do it. But with two little boys, they're heavily involved in it as well. So it's not something she had a whole lot of options.
All right. So I have to reveal some of my early power sports ignorance at this moment too. Thinking about rock crawling and what the environment is like in Utah, I have to say that the first time I heard of all of these people making this pilgrimage to Moab to do these riding events, this is probably 2006 for me when MotoAlliance was just getting started, and I thought, is everybody going to the Middle East to ride? Like, are they packing up these things on airplanes? What's going on here? I had never even heard of Moab, Utah up until that time, but it's quite the place to ride, to use these Razor Pro Rs and all the fleet that you have.
It is. Moab is kind of like the Mecca of the off-road world, and obviously it dates back way back to Jeeps and four-wheel drives way back in the day. Easter Jeep Safari has been a long-standing event that draws in thousands of people each year. It's a ton of fun. And Moab, I'm actually getting ready. We're headed there on Thursday. We're going to be there this weekend playing and having fun. It's only a couple hours from where I live here in Salt Lake, but it is definitely the off-road, kind of capital or Mecca when it comes to off-roading, when it comes to Jeeps especially, and now side-by-sides. It's a huge attraction for side-by-sides.
And is that a trip that you make a number of times a year, or is that an annual thing, every other year? How often are riders visiting Moab on multiple
Good
times?
Question. No, good question. There's depending on where you're located, we usually get out there 2 to 3 times a year. We've already been there once this year. We did a big ride down in southern Utah in an area called Blanding. Most people know it from Bears Ears National Monument. It's a big area. We did a lot of Indian ruins and fun riding. And on the way home, you drive right through Moab on the way back to Salt Lake. So we had to stop in and hit Moab. We hit Hell's Revenge and some other trails. And then we made a commitment. We said, within the next 2 months, we got to come back. And so we're going back there on Thursday, and then we have plans to be back there in the fall. So we usually hit Moab 3 to 4 times a year. Wow. On a slow year, it's maybe 2 or 3 times, but we try to hit it as many times as we can.
What does that look like? Do you go out for an entire day? Do you stay overnight for an entire weekend, camp out? Or what does a trip to Moab look like?
Yeah, so Thursday, we're going to take off after work. We're going to get down there Thursday night. We're going to ride Friday, Saturday. We're going to ride Sunday and then come home Sunday night. And so it's going to be 3 packed days. I think we've got 7 or 8 trails planned all weekend long that we plan to finish all of them. And so we're going to go out there and start from sun up till sundown and try to hit as much trails as we can and try to get some cool content and, kind of tout UTV Utah and what we do as a group there. Moab is a hotbed right now for side-by-sides. And it's been an area that predominantly has been off-road friendly, but within the last couple of years, it's become more and more, and I'm not going to say anti-off-road, but there are individuals in Moab that do raise a ruckus and do not like the off-road community. And so for us, it's always good to go down there and bring a good image to the off-road community and kind of do some PR while we're in town and make sure that people understand that we're just people that like to recreate and have fun just like anybody else.
Yeah, Kevin and I want to ask you about that, some of the pushback you get from time to time. But before we do that, you mentioned the Utah, the UTV Utah community that's on Facebook. When did you start? I guess I have a few questions that you can kind of riff on. Did you start this community? My understanding is you have some 40,000 members associated with it now. Like, you must have your hands full keeping the content generating on that site.
Yes, no, we started the group back in 2015, 2016, and it was just a platform for friends and family to share their, side-by-sides were becoming real popular, and so it was a place for people to share kind of events and pictures of family and rides and locations. And then from there, it did just kind of snowball, as people go out more and more and have fun, they were inviting people to the group. And, here we are, 7 years later, we've got, almost 50,000 members now in our group. And it spans from one end of the state to the other. And obviously a lot of people that come out to Utah that want to ride Moab or Sand Hollow or some of our more, popular places, they join UTV Utah because it's a free group. So it's free to join. It's free. All of our events are free. We host events throughout the entire year. We don't charge for any of our events. And so we always ask people, come bring your friends, family, come ride with us, have some fun. But when we do need you, we will call upon you to, kind of rally the troops when we need to, either fight for some legislation or fight for some OHV legislation, and or fight against. And so we do always reach out to the group if we need it. And so far, if it's ever been needed, our group kind of responds in massive amounts of numbers, which is pretty awesome.
Wow. It sounds like, just because of the prevalence of it in your community at least, and then even just to understand the growth that you've seen, not just since 2015, 2016 starting this. I mean, we had gotten some word that outside of Utah, Minneapolis or Minnesota was the second largest community. But it just sounds like the scale at which you guys have not only a community there active, but even just you talking about Moab and just how much of a destination it is. Is it? I'm trying to envision it as being almost like the Sturgis of motorcycles. Is that sort of how you would describe it, at least out west there, like the way that Moab is treated, and then even just how your state responds to having as much activity in the state that it's treated in a way where you get to see the scale of how many riders that you have in state?
Yes, absolutely. So when you think about, and Moab used to have several side-by-side events each year. They used to have a couple events each year that were big side-by-side events. But when you look at, say, Easter Jeep Safari, it is absolutely the Sturgis of the off-road community. If you just sat in town and you had a GoPro time-lapsing, it would just be people rolling into that town all day and all night that entire week. It's unbelievable. But they do a great job. There's a group down there that runs it. And they run the Jeep Safari. They do an amazing job. It's not as like a party atmosphere like Sturgis, like you might think Sturgis is. And I've never been to Sturgis, unfortunately. So I can't say, but I'm probably like you guys. I'm seeing what's been posted on social media. It looks like a great time. Moab is very similar to that. They do a number of trails per day. You can sign up, go run the trails. And we're working to try to get another side-by-side event back to Moab because it's definitely much needed. There's a huge need for it within the off-road community. And that is one of the goals that we have at UTV Utah is we would like to get an event back in Moab because the last few years they have not allowed a side-by-side event in Moab. The only event they've been able to greenlight has been Easter Jeep Safari. And so we're working to try to get something like that changed. But in the meantime, we just tell people, continue going there, continue having fun. There's a couple people that may not like you, but there's an overwhelming majority in town that do love you. And all the businesses, for the most part, support the off-road community. Whether you drive a Jeep or a side-by-side, they want you there.
Yeah, I want to hear more about some of the events you even have planned for this summer. But to that piece, I know we talked about it a bit earlier. I think in somewhat heavily regulated Minnesota, we have this perspective that if we head west, where we go through the Dakotas, and then we find ourselves in Montana and Wyoming and slightly south into Utah, that it's pretty much anything goes, and everybody is just all in
Mad
for.
Max.
Yeah, it is. It's Mad Max. That's exactly right. It's like no more rules apply once we leave the Minnesota border. But you do have people that are. Are they in favor of more regulation? Do they not like the noise? Do they like the gatherings? Are they just sort of bitter old men? Like what's the deal? Why are people pushing back?
That is a good question. So I'm going to try to answer that as politically correct as I can.
That's super fair. Yeah, super fair.
But a lot of people would say it's the noise. They don't like the sound of the noise. But I'll be on the record saying that honestly, a lot of these people that don't like the side-by-sides or the Jeeps, they don't care what noise your machine makes. If you recreate with a motorized vehicle, they don't want you there. And sure. for those people, unfortunately, there's no negotiating. There's no happy medium with them. They won't be happy until you cannot ride in Moab anywhere. And unfortunately for them, we're not going away anytime soon. We're going to continue to fight for public access on trails and public roads. And so we're going to be here. Utah is a great state in the fact that we've made some massive strides within the last decade when it comes to OHV. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, you could not ride a machine on a road in Utah. You could not. And so we went to bat. We wanted a few individual roads opened in the state to street legal machines. And we got some major pushback from politicians, but we found the right politicians that kind of understood what we were up against and what we were trying to do. And we went from getting one road that we were pushing for, we ran legislation and we got the entire state open to street legal with the exception of freeways. You can ride a street legal machine anywhere in the state of Utah with the exception of interstates.
Wow.
And so we've made some big progress. We've made some negotiations where, we have upped the cost to register a machine, but we've, taken that additional funds and put it into keeping trails and access open and maintaining trails and restrooms. And so it's been a great thing to be a part of. And I think that's a lot of the reason why our group has grown so big so fast is because, you do have these hot topics. We have roughly 200 to 300,000 registered OHVs in the state of Utah. So when you look at it, we have 50,000 members. We're just a drop in the bucket. And our goal is to get a lot more people, honestly, there's no reason why our group shouldn't be 200, 250,000 people. And so that's our goal is to, continue growing the group, continue advocating and continue to grow because it does help our voice when it comes to, OHV legislation and keeping trails and access open at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because I think, we've heard stories of similar, dynamics between the communities just in terms of really where the legislation is trying to go and, all the accommodations that have to be made. And I think one thing in Minnesota here, because of just the seasonality, we've got, once winter hits, some of the sensitive communities that we have right now, especially coming into the summer where you'll have trails that would potentially be shared by mountain bikers with, any of the other off-roading vehicles, that once winter comes, well, that's sort of off the table. And you do have more accessibility to some of those trails for snowmobiles or, some who are out with ATVs or even UTVs with tracks or whatever it might be. But it sounds like that would be a little bit more of a challenging thing out west where you can't bank on every vehicle having its season. So how are you guys having to, as a growing community, how are you having to, really cater to the communities and ensuring that you're not there just to sort of push your agenda or advance, to whatever it is that you guys are wanting to have, but really work within to ensure that you're having positive PR within the communities that you're a part of and all that. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, no, that is a great question because that is one of the things that we're very sensitive of is we don't want to be the group that, are there bad apples in the OHV community? Absolutely. Are there people that are making too much noise or running lighted whips and obnoxious stereos all hours of the night in Moab? Yeah. Unfortunately, yes, there are. Our response to that is, taking them, impound their machines. Let's make an example out of a few bad apples and let's kind of curb some of that attitude. Because a lot of people do think, when you come to Moab or you come to San Hollow, that it's just anything goes. And they will quickly find out that is not the case. Moab is very particular when it comes to driving your machines on the street. You do have to be street legal. You do have to have everything that Utah requires. And then, one of the reasons to get back to your question about, what are we doing to kind of cast a positive image on our group and not just pushing an agenda is, I think from an OHV standpoint and an off-road standpoint, we are one of the biggest advocates for responsibility and responsible use. And one of the things that we've done at UTV Utah and some of the other groups here in Utah is that there is a class now. If you want to ride a side-by-side in the state of Utah, you have to take an off-road class. Now, it's a short class. It takes about 15, 20 minutes, but it is a course refresher to remind people that, stay on trail, tread lightly, pack out everything that you packed in, be responsible, turn down your stereo, turn off your whips when you're in town, be respectful. That we did have some input on it. It was something this is something that was created by the off-road community. It was not a bunch of anti-off-road groups that created this and said, we need you guys to take this class and learn more about what you're doing. No, this was actually a class that was developed and created by the off-road community to try to help educate those, because a lot of the problems we're seeing are people that honestly just don't know any better. They're renting a machine. This community as a whole has exploded since COVID, and everybody's buying machines and out playing and having fun. But a lot of people didn't grow up doing this, and so they don't know any better. They don't know that they're supposed to stay on trail. You hear the term off-roading, and people think that means going off the road. when in all actuality, it just means maybe going off pavement on a dirt road. You still got to stay on the trail. You still got to stay on the road. And so this new class, we had a lot of input on it, and there was three things that we wanted from UTV Utah. And one is we wanted it to be free, and two, we wanted it to be online, and three, we wanted it to be for a lifetime. So now you take a class for 15 minutes. It teaches you some basics about off-roading, and you're done forever. And it kind of removes the ignorance excuse anymore, as far as I didn't know I couldn't do this, I didn't know I could do that. Well, now you do know, and now you can be held responsible for ruining it for the rest of us. And so we are doing a lot when it comes to, helping that public image and teaching people to recreate responsibly. And that's one of the things that I think we're doing right. And we get a lot of pushback from people that says you can't educate the bad apples. And truthfully, you can't. There's still going to be people that go out and break the law and do stupid things. And it's our job to, kind of let those people know they're doing it wrong. And law enforcement, give them a ticket. That's the only way some of these people will learn. And so we are advocates of, doing it right and kind of public shaming those that aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say this. In 19 years of being a part of the off-road world, Bud, I would say the number of people that I've met that are just quality, fun people, want to have a beer with, hang out, that whole thing. I mean, it is the vast, vast, vast majority. I spend part of my life teaching at university, and that's fun in its ways too, but, it can get a little puffy, people get a little bit kind of self-consumed in some ways. And there's a lot of good people too, but gosh, to just be with real people in the dirt, playing around, like the whole thing. It's a lovely place to be. So to have a couple bad apples ruin it, it's just not fair in terms of the presentation. Especially, I would assume when you guys gather for the events that you do and the different charitable things, I'm sure that it's for the most part just a total blast to be with everybody. You've got some events coming up right now, don't you?
We do. We just held Utah's largest off-road swap meet this last weekend. That was an awesome event. We've never had one for side-by-sides or UTVs, and so Saturday and Sunday we had a big swap meet. There were some amazing deals. People were getting stuff for 70 to 80% off of retail, which in this community you really don't get good deals. You either buy it or you don't, and so a lot of people walked away with some really good deals. This weekend we're headed to Moab, just kind of as a small leadership group at UTV Utah. We do have a ride the following weekend that we are doing. It's a charity ride that we're doing for children with life-threatening disabilities and illnesses. We raise a bunch of money to help these families, and we've got several of these kids and their families are members of UTV Utah. So we're going to raise a bunch of money to help these families and kind of give back to the community. We've got a couple other rides coming up throughout the year. We do another ride out in Vernal. We do a ride in Bryce Canyon, Utah. All of our events are on our website, utvutah.com, but we do a lot of events, but then we do a ton of charity as a group. I'm actually very impressed at the willingness of our group, but I think the way that we've structured it has helped benefit that. When our group is free, there's no club dues, there's no yearly dues, there's nothing like that. But when I have a problem with people asking at events, when I'm dragging my machines and my family and I'm paying hotels and then they want to charge me $150 to join an event, that's always been a problem for me. Now I'll donate $150,
sure,
but don't make me pay it. You know what I mean? I'm just kind of that mentality. And so we've tried to make everything free as much as possible, so that when the time comes and we need to help some kids with disabilities and illnesses, we have an amazing group that donates, whether it be a product or money. We're going to raise a bunch of money for kids, and we do a big thing for assisted living centers at Christmas time. We're sponsoring an elk hunt for a disabled veteran in Utah this fall. So we try to do as much philanthropy work as we can within our group to kind of show that we're more than just an off-road group. We're a community that actually cares about everything else that's going on around us.
Have you had the chance to be in the room when maybe you've been giving some financial gifts or other kinds of gifts to somebody in need like that? And is there a story that stands out to you just about the impact that makes?
Yes, we've got my microphone didn't catch your entire question. Do you mind repeating?
Yeah,
I just
no,
wanna make
not
sure
at all.
I heard
Yeah, we're just wondering if you get a chance to be in the room ever with people when you're presenting a financial gift, if you've raised money and they're in need, or some other form of gift that helps them out. I'm sure it's amazing to see the impact firsthand if you've had a chance to be in the room with the people you're helping.
Yeah, so for the last 4 or 5 years, there's been several charity events that we've done. One, there was a family whose house burnt down in central Utah, and they lost everything in their house fire. And they actually live in a town called Marysville. If you haven't heard of it, you need to look it up because it's part of the Paiute Trail System. It's one of the most beautiful trail systems in the entire state of Utah. The Paiute Trail System is a great trail, but they lost their entire house, and with that, the town that they live in, the primary source of transportation for the family was ATVs, and all of their ATVs burned, and they lost them. And so we raised a bunch of money to provide Christmas for them, and then we bought them 2 brand new ATVs for their family. And so we got to go down and meet the family, and we surprised them. They had no clue any of this was coming. It was a pretty awesome story. And then each year we do something around Christmas time for helping families that otherwise would not get anything. And we gave over 350 baskets away to assisted living centers this year to elderly people that a lot of these people didn't have anybody come see them on Christmas. And so it was pretty cool that the local news showed up. They got pictures and videos, and these people were just ecstatic just to see people, let alone receive something. It was pretty cool. And then this next weekend, some of the stories of these kids that are battling cancer and different things, to see them up on the stage or see their family, and we do drive-by several times a year. If we hear of a child that's not doing well health-wise, and the family needs somebody to kind of brighten their day, we can rally the troops. And we did this last, I want to say October. There was a little girl that was not doing well. The family said, we don't know how long she's going to make it. We rallied, and within a week we had 250 machines. We did a quick drive-by. The girl came out. The family was ecstatic. She smiled from ear to ear. We gave her a ride in one of the machines, and lo and behold, the mayor of the town asked us to come back and do a big event there. And that's actually the event we're doing this next weekend. Is they gave us the permitting to do the event there because they came out and were a part of our big ride. So, giving back is something we really pride ourselves on, and we don't do it for the recognition. We truthfully, the smile on the kids' faces is the only reason we need.
Mm. Well, but we love just these first contacts with you and just seeing what you're up to. I know that our internal team, we follow your page, even though you're in Utah or in Minnesota, we're super interested in what you're doing out there, and just hearing some of the firsthand stories. Yeah, I mean, that's the real deal. That's where people are really living, and there's so many people that have a lot of different kind of trials that they're going through. So to turn around and give back, we love hearing that kind of story. Before I let you run, we have 3 new hires pretty recently at MotoAlliance, 2 in engineering and 1 in dealer development. But I think their collective age, if you added them all up, would be about 11 years old right now. They're pretty young. And so they haven't done a lot of riding. I'm just wondering, can I send them westbound and you take them out to Moab and show them the ropes?
Absolutely. Send them out, and we'll break them in. We will give them the fire hose treatment out here in Utah for sure. They'll leave the weekend thinking, "Holy cow! I did not know those machines could do that type of stuff." We do have some amazing riding out here in Utah, and you guys are welcome out here anytime. And if you ever come out here, hit us up. Join our group on UTV Utah and ask questions. We get a lot of people that are coming here to Utah for their first time, and they join for the simple fact that they want to know the ins and outs, where to go, what trails to hit, what are the must-dos when I come in town. And so we spend a lot of time answering those questions, but we would love to have you guys out here. Come out anytime.
I love it. And unless I leave one person out of this, Alicia's in studio here. She's our digital content manager. And Alicia, you fall into that same category of, if we add your age, I think we're up to 13 now. So Alicia, would you go riding with Bud, or would you just hang back and take the pictures and do all the media stuff at this point?
I think the camera would come along, but the story from earlier where you ended up going out riding with your son and he took a nap in the side seat. I think I bring a pillow along just in case.
I love it. Yeah.
But we would make her get in the seat and go with us.
I love it.
She wouldn't have a choice. It's too much fun not to.
I love it. I love it. Well, Bud, we'd love to do this again with you and maybe even on a regular basis and just keep tabs on what you're all up to. But boy, it's been a blast to just hear firsthand what's all happening for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I absolutely appreciate it. Now we got a box from you guys for a Pro R, and we just started our YouTube channel, and so we post all of our rides on there. We're going to post some product reviews, and we did a pretty cool review on your guys' box. And so if you get a chance, we'll probably have that up here in the next week or so. I'd encourage you to check out UTV Utah on YouTube. We're kind of behind the eight ball. Our Facebook group is up and running, and we post everything there. But a lot of people aren't on social media and they want to see stuff on YouTube. So we are getting to that, and we'll have some cool stuff up on MotoAlliance and some of your products on our YouTube channel as well.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, no, I love that. It was super fun to send you one of those cargo boxes. I know that's maybe the next time that we chat, we'll talk a little bit about the acquisition that we made and how that led to us getting you a box and where we're going from there. So lots ahead, Bud. We're looking forward to the continuing friendship.
Absolutely. And then do what you guys can. Get Utah on the schedule and get out here and come play with us.
You bet.
Awesome.
Love it. All right, man. We'll have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, Bud.
All right. We'll do it. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, this has been the MotoAlliance podcast. Kevin, Alicia, it was super fun to talk with Bud today.
That's right.
Love it.
It's been such a treat.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll check in again soon. Thanks for listening, everyone.